Welcome to Real Life with Jenny. My name's Jenny Senaparatna. Grab your favorite drink, get yourself a snack, and we'll get started. Today I have Earl Grey tea with some half and half and some sugar, and I have an oatmeal cream pie because you know what? Sometimes life is short and you need an oatmeal cream pie. So let's get real. I want to talk a little bit about a book that I just listened to that kind of has stuck with me for a little while. Now it's nothing profound. Let's take down the expectations. It is a mystery book. And I have listened to most of the series. There are a couple that I have not because it was not available. But it is a book series about a bakery. Because yes, please, who doesn't want to own a bakery? Like, I know that it would be a ton of work, but man, it would be fun, especially if I got to solve mysteries on the side. Like, that'd be amazing. Anyway, and it takes place in Oregon, and it is just a really fun series. I absolutely love it. It's by Ellie Alexander. And I've talked about her before because she is one of my favorite authors. And I realized that I am the biggest nerd on the planet. And she's the one that I was going to go to a mystery festival. They had like a cozy mystery festival. And it was in the town that she writes these books in. And I am just completely obsessed. Someday I will save enough money and get there. I will. It's on my bucket list now and I will get there. But I was listening to this book, and the sheriff or the captain of the police, I'm not 100% sure that I can remember that right now, but he says a lot of like timely quotes throughout this book. And so he will something will happen and he'll say like this quote that is like super profound and has to do with what they're dealing with. And he always quotes the Bard, who is Shakespeare, because it's a Shakespearean town. And that's kind of the whole like kitsch with the town is it's all about Shakespeare. And so every event that happens, he talks about the Bard and what the Bard would say about this. And I'm not even a Shakespeare person enough to understand 90% of what he's saying, but it seems really profound. And I started thinking about this because, I don't just let things go. And it was definitely a reminder of what goes in comes out, what you spend time on, and what you dedicate your brain cells or amount of time to comes out in your world. Because I started thinking what would be my quotes? Like what kind of quotes, if I were coming up with something timely and profound, where would they come from, right? I can tell you they're not come from the Bard. That is not happening. I'm not going to come up with any Shakespearean things. My daughter quite often will quote Jane Austen, because she loves Jane Austen. I couldn't quote a Jane Austen thing to save my life. There's a couple other books I could quote, but the main book that I can quote is the Bible. Now, that is because that's where I spend a lot of my time. It is something that I think about, that I meditate on. I listen to a lot of songs that have to do with the Bible, that have a lot of Bible verses in them. I quote a lot of, when I'm going to quote something, it's from a song or it's from a Bible verse. And I just started thinking about the soundtracks in our lives. And that we get to kind of choose what those soundtracks are. We get to choose whether a TV show is a soundtrack. Now, another thing that I do a lot of quoting of, especially with my husband, because it used to be kind of our thing, is the Friends sitcom. So we will quote back and forth, every once in a while. Life throws us a curveball and we go, pivot, pivot. And we both know what that means. And we crack up laughing. We've quoted that because we've seen it. It's was part of our culture. We watched that as we were growing up and in our 20s and the reruns, And so I just kind of started thinking about what soundtracks I wish I did not have and what soundtracks I would like to have. Are there things in my life that you talk to someone else and they're talking about this, TV show or this movie or these songs, and you go, yeah, I've never heard of any of this, right? Like, I remember when my daughter first started listening to different music than I was listening to. You know, that phase when all of a sudden they like rear off and now they're listening to music that's now cool and your music's no longer cool. Yeah, we're past that now. Like, she is way cooler than I am in music. Mine's still like, I pull up, hey, on my little machine, I would like you to play music from the 1900s, please. Give me some songs from back then. I don't need any of this new stuff, all right? I do love a good worship music, and that's fine, but I'm just so not cool enough to like dive into the new music. It's just not. I wasn't cool back in high school with music. Anyway, neither here nor there. But I so often think, wouldn't it be really cool if I was like in a group of people and I could just like spout off different quotes from different people? And part of that is where am I spending my time? Like, where am I spending my energy and my thought process? And so I really had to kind of look at what I'm reading, what I'm watching, what I'm listening to, who I'm talking to, what the church is teaching me, what podcasts I'm listening to. All those kind of things become soundtracks in your life. They become things that you kind of regurgitate. Now, I know that the Bible talks about this, and it talks about, what's inside will come out, and, your heart will really be shown through your tongue and those kind of pieces. But it's really true. I have noticed that when there's a certain show that I used to watch, I don't watch it anymore. And it was kind of a crime show. It was a little darker. And I realized when I was watching it, I was kind of fearful to go to my car. I was kind of living in paranoia a little bit more than I do now that I watch everything like with happy endings. Now, am I blissfully unaware? Maybe sometimes, right? But when I was watching this show, it's not a bad show. It was actually a pretty tame show. Lots of you, if I even told you what it was, would be like, oh yeah, I watch that every week. Like, it's a very common show. It's been on the air forever. And it wasn't bad, but for me, I just got super paranoid. Like, I started walking through the Walmart parking lot looking for someone to jump out at me. And, I was so like ready for anything at that point because that was a soundtrack in my life. It was something that I was like, this is a common occurrence. Murder happens everywhere. And, crime is and maybe it is. I have never seen one. And I'm not involved in a lot of crime. So it was pretty unrealistic for me in real life, but that was my soundtrack at that point. That was what I watched. Now my husband and I are watching the new MacGyver, and I am now like looking around going, what could I do with that paperclip? Like, could I take this apart and that apart and make something cool? Now, I've realized I can't, and that is a fake skill that I will never have, but it is kind of fun to have like a vivid imagination of what I could do if I had any skill in that area. So that's kind of been a new fun soundtrack for me. And I just started kind of looking through like the books I'm reading, what are the soundtracks they're bringing into my life. I love cozy mysteries, and part of that is there's a little bit of romance, a lot of fun friends, and I love that. Okay, let's just stop right here. When you're looking at books, and if you're thinking about writing a fictional book, write a fun, kooky character. Like, I love what would the right word be? Kooky? I don't know what the right word would be. Maybe that's not even a word. An odd, fun-loving friend, because that is the people that I'm looking for in my life. Like, most of my friends are pretty tame and fabulous. Like, they're all pretty fabulous. But I love a little bit of an oddball because that's who I am. And I'm always looking for myself in that book. I'm always like, ooh, do I fit? Am I like the side character who is obsessed with cats or, whatever? So Make sure you have those. And I love that in a book. And so that is a soundtrack in my life, that I am looking for people that love things that maybe I don't, that maybe I could love. And I love that my cozy mysteries also kind of expand my thought process on like what you can do in life. Now, if you've never read a cozy mystery, that's okay. But when you're reading different books, you realize that you could really do anything for a living if you enjoy it. And it just boggles my mind. And that soundtrack is constantly going through my head because I read all these books about all these different occupations and different friends. I am looking for that in my life. And so I just wanted to come on and encourage you. What are the soundtracks that are currently running in your life? Whether it's music or whether it's friendships or whether it's what you're reading or watching, what are those soundtracks? Because I can guarantee those soundtracks are going to become what you become eventually. Now that seems a little harsh, but it's very true. I believe that my husband says, look at your 5 closest friends. That's who you'll be in 5 years. And I'm going to tell you, my 5 closest friends, I would kill to be any one of them. Like, please, yes, I want to be them. And if you look at people in your life and you're like, the 5 closest people to me, yeah, I don't want to be like them. Maybe it's time for a change. If you're looking at what you're listening to and you're going, this doesn't really bring me a lot of joy, or this is kind of maybe not a soundtrack I want to repeat in front of my grandmother, then maybe there's time for a change. If you wouldn't sit down with your 10-year-old and watch what you're watching on TV, should you be watching it? I'm not going to make that call, because there have been shows that we've just, we're watching it and it was okay. Would I want to watch it with my 10-year-old? No, because would I watch Friends with my 10-year-old? Absolutely not. I would not. In fact, I've told her she's not ever allowed to watch a show. You hear what I'm saying? You hear my heart. Like, look at the soundtracks in your life and know that they really do affect you. They really do become part of who you are. And if that's not something you want to become, then it's time to cut it out. That's my encouragement. I don't know, take it or leave it. You can continue with what you're doing, but I'm telling you, they really do affect you. And I'm watching that in my own life as I have throughout the years, and even now, changing the soundtracks in my life. And I remember last year, 2 years ago, I actually had like a playlist of songs, and I had to go in and make a new playlist because the old playlist was kind of a little depressing. They were all worship songs and all kind of, nice, beautiful things. But I was like, every time I listen to this, I'm kind of going, I'm not in that depressed state anymore. I'm in a place that I am enjoying life and I'm going after God. And I don't feel like he's far away anymore. And so I had to change that soundtrack. I literally had to make a new playlist of songs that I saw God in a new light. And I knew that he was here and that he wasn't far away and that I rejoiced in who he was. And so I had to make a whole new soundtrack. And so every once in a while I'll go back and listen to that old soundtrack and I just remember the feeling of, yeah, I really didn't feel like I was making progress in life, and you can tell by my song choices. So be encouraged that it's okay to change some soundtracks and go back and say, I have grown so much from that last soundtrack. And think about who's influencing you, even which books of the Bible you're reading. They're all fabulous, but there are certain seasons for certain things. And if you are in a depressed state, probably Lamentations isn't where you should be. You probably should be looking somewhere else. And there are just times and moments that you need to change that soundtrack in your life. And so that's my encouragement to you. Let's go for it. Let's do some change. Let's look around and say, ooh, that's what I want to be, and make that your soundtrack. Well, that's all I have for you this week. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Be Real at Real Life with Jenny. All of a sudden, I have no idea what I'm talking about. And you can find me at christconnection.cc/Jen. All of my info is there. We are booking in 2025, so let's get on that calendar if you're looking for something then. I'm excited for you to start this new soundtrack. Look around, see what your soundtracks are. Do some real looking at what you're watching, who you're around, what you're reading, what you're listening to, and see if those should still be part of your life. And if they are, great. If they're not, maybe time to make a little tweak here or there and see what can change in your life if your soundtrack changes. Have a great week.